This is raise your hand if you know the answer. I don't think I do, so I'm excited to hear this talk. Give it up for Damian.
All right. First, keep it going for Andrew. He killed it. Grace under pressure personified. Way to go, Andrew. All right, so my name is Damian Synadinos. My company is Ineffable Solutions, and this is raise your hand if you know the answer. Yeah, you don't know it yet. That's the name of the talk. All right, so I started software testing when I was 19 years old, did it for about 25 years. More recently, I became a public speaker. This is what I do full-time for a living. Even more recently, I started doing jobs as a elementary substitute teacher around Columbus, Ohio. And I assure you, the phrase, raise your hand if you know the answer is something I say very, very often. So today's talk is all going to be about knowing and raising hands. But anyway, during my software testing career, I noticed something. Across all the different companies, there was one common thing. Every time that there was scheduling concerns or budgetary cutbacks or lack of resources, the very first thing to get cut in many projects was software testing. It got axed. And I'm here to tell you I think it's a very bad idea and why software testing is actually very important. But first, how do you know what you know? Certainly everybody here knows a lot of different things. Some of you may know how to program, maybe in multiple different languages. Some of you know how to test software. Maybe you know how to bake a cake. Maybe you know how to fix an engine or fly a kite, or you know what time bedtime is for your kids, or you know that the world is round, or you know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow. There's a million different things that we know, but my question is, how do you know what you know? That's a question that deals with epistemology. Epistemology is understanding how we know what we know. It helps us suss out the difference between fact and fiction and opinion. It helps us understand the process, and it's thinking about thinking. So how do we know what we know? There's a lot of different ways. Sometimes we're taught or told something, maybe by a teacher or an expert or a trusted friend. That's one way that we know things. Another way is we observe the world around us. We see observations and we know things that way. Of course, the scientific method is a great way to know things. We get empirical evidence. Obviously, experiments is a simile for software testing, but there's lots of other ways that we know too. We use logic and reasoning, both deductive and inductive. Those come with assumptions, and experience is a fantastic way to know. We experience things in our world, and that gives us information, gives us knowledge. But of course, experience is subject. It's from your perspective, and obviously, we get that perspective through our senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. But there's another perception. It's called proprioception. If you know what proprioception is, do you know the answer? Raise your hand. All right, some of you know the answer. Proprioception is the feedback loop between the brain and the body. It helps the body know its sense of where it is. It basically helps us understand the position and awareness of our body's movement in space. It helps us know where we are. Now, I'll give a demonstration so you better understand and better know what proprioception is. If you want to participate, raise your right hand in the air. Raise it up in the air. All right, I can look around and I know that some people have their arms raised. And you can look around and see that other people have their arms raised. How do you know that your own arm is raised? Oh, somebody looked at it. Of course, you can look at your own arm, and that's one way to know. What if you close your eyes or aren't looking at your arm? Are you sure it's still raised? How do you know it's raised? That's proprioception. What's happening is your brain is sending a command signal to your body. Step 2 is your body executes that command, but it's not done. Step 3 is your body, through the sensory nerve system, sends messages back to the brain saying, command accomplished, your arm is in the air, success. I'll give another example if you want to participate. Put both hands in the air. I'll give you some instructions, follow them when I say go. First, right hand, make an index finger like this. Second, keep your left hand perfectly still, no wiggling your fingers or hand. Now what I want you to do is with your right index finger, you're going to touch your nose, then your first finger, then your nose, then your second finger, nose, third finger, on down. Not yet when I say go, because I want you to close your eyes and do it. Ready, go. Oh my gosh, I see a lot of flailing limbs out there. It's very, very difficult. It's easier if you open your eyes and cheat, because then you're getting two senses helping you, your sense of sight and proprioception, helping your body know where it is in space. So, proprioception is very important. It's the signal between your brain and your body back and forth. It's the feedback loop. What happens if it's broken or severed? Sometimes you might go to the dentist and they Novocaine you up for a procedure. Afterwards, you go to take a drink of water and your brain sends a command to your lips that says close, seal. But you can't feel if they're sealed or not because that link has been severed. There's no feedback loop and you spill water down your shirt. Or maybe you fall asleep and you wake up, but your arm's still asleep. And although the motor senses, the motor nerves aren't affected, maybe the proprioception, the sensory nerves are. So you can't feel your arm and you go to grab something and you're knocking things about clumsily. So bad things happen with that feedback loop is gone. So how does this relate to testing? I like to think of the process of proprioception is very similar to making software. First, you have the brain. Let's call that the designers, the BAs, the customers, the users, the executives, the project manager, the product owners, the people with the design, the desire. They send the commands to the second group. That group is the developers, the programmers, the architects, the engineers. They actually take the design and make it manifest. They make it so. But it's not done. How do you know that the thing that you wanted is the thing that you got? That's where testing comes in. It's the feedback loop that comes back and says the thing that you wanted is equal to the thing that you got. And obviously, if you sever that loop, if you sever that last feedback loop, bad things will happen. So next time you're in a meeting and somebody says there's budgetary concerns, there's deadlines, we got to cut testing, you know it's a bad idea. So raise your hand. You have the answer. Thank you.